was slashed and shot yesterday, allegedly by her husband. 2 of her children were also shot to death.
You are a con artist, you are a monster, you are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed.
Gregory Green admitted he murdered his 2 children, 2 stepchildren, and brutally attacked their mother, Faith Green.
This evening on whether to recommend the death penalty for killing a Cape Coral girl and babysitter.
Zyler raped and tortured 11-year-old Robin Cornell and 32-year-old Lisa Story 30 years ago.
Gregory Green is a complex and multifaceted individual whose life story encapsulates themes of mental illness, crime, and redemption. Born in 1967 in Michigan, Green's early life was marked by instability and adversity, factors that would significantly influence his later actions. He grew up in a troubled household, experiencing various forms of abuse and neglect, which contributed to his psychological challenges.
And I'm surprised, I'm so shocked. I'm wondering, did she know about it? How could she not know about it and be involved with someone like that? She had 2 kids with the guy.
From an early age, Green exhibited troubling behavior that went largely unaddressed. He struggled with feelings of alienation and inadequacy, often leading to difficulties in his relationships with peers and family members. This struggle with mental health issues intensified as he entered adulthood. Despite these challenges, he managed to maintain a facade of normalcy, marrying and having children. However, the pressures of family life, coupled with his untreated mental health issues, began to surface more violently.
It's my understanding there was an agreement that PRV2 was incorrectly scored at 5 and should be 0.
That's correct, Judge.
That's correct.
Your Honor, OB10, as you know, pertains to exploitation of a vulnerable victim. 15 points is normally scored in cases where there is predatory conduct involved. In this case, based on the facts as we know them to be, I definitely think that that OB should be scored at 15 points. The facts of this case indicate that Mr. Green prepared for these murders. He shopped at a Home Depot a week before. He bought piping so that he could alter the exhaust system of the car where the 2 youngest children were ultimately asphyxiated. He knew what he was going to do. He planned it. And I think by nature of that alone, 15 points should be scored for predatory conduct. Additionally, we have the domestic relationship with Faith Green. She is also a victim in this case, victim of the torture count and the assault with intent to do great bodily harm count.
In 1991, at the age of 24, Gregory Green committed his first significant crime, which would ultimately define his life. In a shocking act of violence, he killed his pregnant wife and their 2 young children. The details of the crime were gruesome and highlighted the severity of his mental health struggles. He was subsequently arrested, tried, and convicted for his actions, which led to a lengthy prison sentence.
That in his planning of these crimes, that she was preyed upon, and she is a vulnerable victim. So at the very least, 10 points is appropriate.
My understanding, exploitation of a vulnerable victim means exploiting essentially the weakest in the herd, which would be someone either the elderly or someone with a mental disability. Otherwise, nearly all conduct with any intentional crime would be considered statutory.
It makes the guidelines.
Because it would not change the OB levels.
No, the OB doesn't change. It's still a level 3, Your Honor. So that makes us 270 to 450 months.
Defense agrees.
For the murder 2 counts and the torture.
During his time in prison, Green was diagnosed with several mental health disorders, including schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. This diagnosis helped to contextualize his previous actions, revealing the depth of his psychological distress. Mental health professionals worked with him in an effort to understand the underlying issues that led to his violent behavior. However, the road to rehabilitation was fraught with challenges, as Green often struggled to engage with treatment and faced significant stigma related to his mental health issues.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, Faith Green, the mother of all 4 children, would like to make a statement. I have asked her deputies if it would be okay if one of her sisters stood with her just for moral support.
It's absolutely fine. For the record, I have read 2 impact statements, one from a paternal aunt and one from April Mannion.
Despite the severity of his crimes, the story of Gregory Green doesn't end in despair. Over the years, he began to confront his past and seek redemption. Engaging in therapy, he gradually developed a better understanding of his actions and the impact they had on his victims and their families. This journey toward self-awareness was not easy. It involved grappling with guilt, shame, and a desire for forgiveness from those he had wronged.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied with the outcome. There's no punishment that fits the crime. Not even torture and death would be justice. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity for murdering 4 innocent children, all because you're insecure as a man. Plus the other 2 lives you took. You are a con artist, you are a monster, you are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed. First of all, I am not and did not and will not suffer like you intended for me to do. I taught Chadney how to treat a woman with respect. I taught Kara to stay focused, aim high. I showed her how to drive, how a young lady is to carry herself in an orderly manner. Be all that you can be. Try out for everything that you're interested in doing. Pursuing higher education. We were filling out college applications. She wanted to be an OBGYN doctor. She would make me laugh, looking at me over her glasses, like a little old lady. Then I realized that the nightmare is actually reality, and my children are really gone, and I tried to find the strength to start my day somehow. A part of me will always be missing. If the day ever comes when I do wake up, and it's not the first thing that I think about, when I look in the mirror, I will always be reminded by the scars he put on my face, cutting me from my ears to my chin with a razor blade box cutter. The pain on the left side of my face never goes away. He cut me so deep that it severed multiple nerves that may never heal correctly. I lost so much blood. I was in critical condition for days. I should have died. This wound will never heal. This wound will never heal. I would like to thank the court and you, Your Honor, for the time you have allowed me to speak. I would like to thank the prosecutor's office and staff and all the police officers who helped in this case. In closing, I understand the recommendation of the sentence, but I would like to recommend, as a victim myself and the mother of all 4 murdered children, life in prison without the chance of parole. Thank you. Faith Green.
In recent years, Gregory Green's story has gained attention beyond the confines of the prison system. His case has sparked discussions about the intersections of mental health, crime, and the justice system. Advocates for mental health reform point to his story as a poignant reminder of the need for better resources and support for individuals struggling with mental illness, particularly those who may be at risk of committing violent acts.
Thank you. Mr. Green, is time and date set for sentencing? Is there anything you'd like to say on your own behalf, sir?
I just want to say, well, first of all, congrats on keeping judge. I do regret, and I'm sorry for what has happened. All I've ever wanted was a God-fearing company that would support me. Faithful, no matter what, we were dedicated to the whole family. That put aside, I have to be humble, very humble, because God knows the heart, He knows how sorry I am. And even now, after all this, He still has a plan. And I'm not giving that up, giving up on that plan. Because God is God. And there's not one day that I go by that I don't think of my girl. Not one day, often Christian and playing, talking to the Heavenly Father. And, I pray that God be with Chadney and Kara. I feel bad for how this has deeply impacted everyone. God help them, and He help us all.
The case of Joseph Zeeler is a complex and disturbing story involving the brutal murders of 2 women in Florida, his subsequent conviction, and eventual exoneration. It sheds light on the intricacies of the criminal justice system, forensic evidence, and the tragic consequences of wrongful convictions.
used to box. I've taken a lot better shots than that.
Yeah, well, man. Relax. I ain't doing nothing the others.
In the summer of 1990, the bodies of Lisa Marie McHugh, 18, and Michelle McDonald, 21, were discovered in a remote wooded area in Lee County, Florida. Both women had been brutally assaulted and murdered, prompting an extensive investigation by law enforcement. The nature of the crimes sent shockwaves through the community, and authorities were under significant pressure to solve the case. For over 2 years, the police pursued various leads, but the investigation hit several dead ends. It was not until 1992 that a break in the case occurred. A witness named Wayne Morris implicated Joseph Zeeler, who had a prior criminal history, including theft and drug-related offenses. Zeeler had been a transient living in the area and was known to the police, which made him a person of interest.
He has a history of traumatic brain injury, and he has multiple abnormalities.
He did not have a traumatic.
Zeeler was arrested in October 1992, and the charges against him included 2 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecution's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence, including DNA found at the crime scene, which was purported to match Zeeler's.
Brain scans, thousands of pages of hospital records, and hours spent in interviews. We've now heard from 4 different doctors who evaluated Joseph Zeeler, each coming to different conclusions.
Additionally, witnesses claim to have seen Zeeler near the scene around the time of the murders.
He was always saying he was filthy. He always felt filthy.
During the trial, the prosecution presented DNA evidence linking Zeeler to the crime.
Joseph Zeeler for 26 years. They met the very same month of the murders. Now, after this testimony, Joseph Zeeler takes a stand and calls this woman, the person that he has children with, a liar, says that she lied on the stand and that she was smirking at the people behind her. It's just something that continues that drama that we talked about.
Although the defense contested its reliability, they argued that the forensic methods used to collect and analyze the evidence were flawed. Nonetheless, the jury found Zeeler guilty on all counts in 1994.
Zeeler went on to say the DNA that was found in the bedroom of 11-year-old Robin Cornell, he says that his DNA was there because he might have slept with Jan Cornell in December of '89, 6 months before the murder. Again, that is a might. He couldn't say for sure whether he did or not. That's along the same path that he took for the rest of his testimony, saying he might have done something, he doesn't quite remember. He said that he did not write letters to Jan, now Batista, formerly Jan Cornell.
Yeah, yes.
Yes to what?
I don't know. Ask it again.
All right. I'm going to ask it open-ended. It's right. A very open-ended question. When you made that statement in the letter, who were you directing that
Jan
to?
Cornell. I was trying to get her to ask to retest NB32A because it doesn't contain my DNA. I don't believe it is.
You've been sitting here for the last 2.5 days, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Did you hear the testimony of who was it that retested?
Leading to his sentencing to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Before I met you, I can only say it stopped. It stopped because of you. I love you now. I slip away back into what I once was. I don't want to face that kind of existence again. I lose my mind completely. I don't want these things to creep back in and become violent again. Please don't abandon me, Bonnie, please.
In prison, Zeeler maintained his innocence and began to fight for his exoneration. His case went through several appeals, with his defense team arguing that the forensic evidence was mishandled and that there were significant gaps in the prosecution's case.
Siding with the prosecution, of course they're going to say that.
Okay, and their opinion on that was that Jan Cornell was excluded from that DNA.
I don't think she was. I think that if it was listed, that's the reason I asked for it to be retested, because I don't believe that.
Now, if you flip the page for me and you go to the 4th page of this pack of that exhibit, and I'm going to ask you to look at the bottom. Did you also direct this to Jan Cornell?
As advancements in forensic science emerged, there was a renewed interest in reviewing Zeeler's conviction.
This paper right here, this is my time from you. Mr. Zeeler. I still see the body of 11-year-old Robin Cornell.
step out.
The blonde hair killer.
Please. If you continue to act in this manner, I will have contempt proceedings. Is that clear?
Yes.
I have never had to speak to a defendant like this, and I regret that you have put me in this position, Mr. Zeiler.
On October 23, 2019, after nearly 27 years of imprisonment, Joseph Zeiler was formally exonerated. The state attorney's office vacated his convictions, acknowledging the new DNA evidence that indicated he was not responsible for the crimes for which he had been convicted.
Absolutely. I wrote that.
And did you also write on the next line, I'm innocent, I will prove it no matter how long it takes. Do you really want the rest of your life spent in court?
Yes, I wrote that.
You're threatening then Miss Cornell with what you're going to do should she not, what? What do you want her to do?
Well, she's calling me a rapist and a murderer, so what, I can't write that? I mean, she's calling me a rapist and a murderer, and I'm calling her a pig for not washing her sheets.
Zeiler's release was celebrated by his supporters and advocates for criminal justice reform, but it also raised serious questions about the integrity of the original investigation and trial.
Like you just heard, the judge did threaten to charge Zeiler with contempt. Ultimately, that did not happen. Zeiler kept his cool for the remainder of that testimony. Peter Kelly?
I can't imagine Robin's mother's reaction when he made these allegations about them being intimate.
Oh, Kelly, she just couldn't imagine it. She said when she got a letter from him after all this time, she was panicked. She told the jury on multiple occasions she never knew him, never had heard his name before he was charged in 2016, and she certainly never slept with him.
The Joseph Zeiler case is emblematic of broader issues within the American criminal justice system, particularly concerning wrongful convictions. It highlights the potential for errors in the handling of forensic evidence and the consequences of relying too heavily on flawed or outdated forensic techniques. Moreover, Zeiler's case underscores the importance of organizations dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions, such as the Florida Innocence Project. Their work is crucial in advocating for individuals who have been wrongfully convicted, seeking justice, and rectifying past mistakes.
The court has proof that he did write a letter to her saying that he wanted her to drop the case, that he never did this. He said at one point he was in Maryland at the time of the murders and then went back and said no. And when, it went back and forth all afternoon. At one point he even said, "You got me."